Hi, this is Paul Rose, and this is part 2 of the story of the album Magic City. Metalwork's quite an interesting one, I think. Again, drum loop, and that drum loop that you hear in the back of Metalwork is really, really sped up. The beauty of digital is you can speed things up without sounding like Pinky or Perky, and so that drum loop's really sped up there. I'm sure there's drummers in the world who can play that fast, but it's important to bear in mind that when you're living in a council flat, or when you're living in a house with the family, or you're living in a flat where there's people, you can't just set a drum kit up and have someone bash away at the drums all day, day after day after day, looking for the perfect drum take. I would choose to work that way if I had the opportunity, which has come along later on. But for the sake of just efficiency and the logistics of this process, you just use a drum loop. So anyway, Metalwork is, I just got this really heavy riff and some guitar harmonies and stuff like that, and I love doing tracks like this, like the track on Homework, America, and there's another one on there called Demons, where it's really just full-on metal guitar, but at the same time, although I enjoy doing these full-on heavy metal things, I don't particularly care for making the same album. I say I've done 7 albums so far. I don't see the point in making the same album 7 times over and over. That may be seen as an inconsistency in some people's eyes, or it may be seen as a failing, that I keep doing the same thing like AC/DC have always done, or Motorhead have always done, and you just keep the same fans, and and the thing keeps ticking over. But I don't know, that's just the way that it's happened, and I just find music very, very, very interesting, completely consumed by the creative process of music, and so I just go where my imagination happens to take us on one particular day. And it's like playing blues. There's a lot of articles and reviews being written about gigs, and so blues guitarist Paul Rose, which I am into playing blues. I like blues very much, but I've played blues in London for years, or I did a long time ago, in the debauched alcoholic mayhem of North London and West London, and I'm sorry, blues fans, but I got a bit bored with just playing over those same 3 chords night after night after night after night, But I love Johnny Winter, and I love B.B. King, and I love all of this kind of music, but I can't take a great deal of it. And when I'm writing and producing stuff, I find that I go down. It's prevalent there, I don't want to just keep churning out the same thing over and over and over again. There's a track on this album called Loss, which is about a friend of mine called Duncan, who, it was a great shock. It was a terrible shock. Duncan was a dancer, and I'd known Duncan for about 5 or 6 years, I think, and he'd come to me and said, I'm putting this show together, and it's a one-man show, and it's going to be dance, and it's choreographed, and he had all kinds of ideas and plans for it and so on. And he had some musical ideas, and he'd asked me to help make these musical ideas become real. And he came to see me on the Tuesday night and the Wednesday night, and we worked all from sort of like 5:30, 6 o'clock all night Tuesday to sort of like 1 o'clock on the Wednesday morning. And he came back on the Wednesday night again, 5:30, and we worked till about, as I remember, about 12:30, 12:45. And he walked out the door, and he turned round and he said, "I'll call you tomorrow." And I says, "Okay, Doug," and I closed the door, and he didn't call, and it was very strange, because he always did call when he said he was going to call. And absolutely, completely the tragedy of it. He'd been cycling to work the following morning on the Thursday morning, and he'd been knocked off his bike and killed by a guy who'd been using crack all night, who apparently the police had stopped 20 minutes earlier and allowed to drive on. So that was just a devastating shock. I came back to the flat, and the cup that he'd been drinking out of the night before was still sitting by the seat that he'd been sitting in when we'd been sitting talking and working. And I was absolutely destroyed. I couldn't get out of bed for about 2 weeks. It really, really rocked me. So the last night he spent on earth was spent with me, and we had a great laugh working on this music, and went out and had a kebab and so on and so forth. And we really had a good laugh. And I'd been sort of messing about with this guitar melody, and I'd actually played it to him. "What do you think of this?" He says, "I don't like that." So I started to put this next piece of music together. Weeks later, I pulled myself back together. I couldn't sit at the computer, and all of the music files that we'd done together, it took a lot of... I deleted them, they were totally unfinished. And I think this track, Loss, was almost the beginnings of the basis of something that we'd started to work on. And I took this melody, and I put a lot of time into that track, Loss. I had this keyboard, and I played the same thing on the guitar, but I worked out how the melody would go backwards. So I played the notes backwards. So if the melody goes 4 3 2 1 4 3 2 1 4 3 2 1 4 3 2 1, I played it 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3, and then reversed it. So the melody's going in the right direction, but the notes are a reversed version of it. I knew I was dedicating this track to Duncan. I didn't have a focal point for an album title, or I didn't have a concept of an album at that time. No idea whatsoever. But Duncan was I was conscious of. I knew that this track was for Duncan. Track Ned's guitar on Magic City. The story of Ned's guitar is my old friend Tom Taylor. Hello Tom, if you're listening. Tom asked us to look after his house when he went away with his family, and so I cycled down to Victoria Station and got the train down to Brighton, and sat in Tom's house for 4 days while he was away. And I was messing about with this thing, and I came out, I just wrote it sitting in Brighton. And when I went back to London, I knew the first thing I was going to do as soon as I got through the door was to drop my bag, drop my jacket, put the kettle on, switch the computer on, and start recording this thing. And the title of Ned's guitar is basically that I wrote it on Ned Taylor's little nylon string acoustic guitar. And I have to confess that there are more than one or two engineering blunders, production blunders on this track, but I've managed to smooth them out. And yeah, there you go, Ned's guitar. The title track of Magic City and the title itself, Magic City, I guess I'll talk about the track first. The title track, I always had these certain chords that I enjoyed playing over the top of, certain chords, progressions or patterns that circular chord patterns, whatever, that I enjoyed soloing over. And I always said to myself that I was going to make a track which just was 8 bars or 16 bars of one chord pattern, 16 bars of another chord pattern, and just running all these favourite chord patterns to solo over the top of each other. Just put them all together in a track, and then just solo all over it. And that's basically all that Magic City is. Put the little synth pattern in Rebirth on the beginning, as I said earlier, is also used in Homeward Bound, and that's where that track came from. The title Magic City, I don't know. People say, what's the Magic City? Where's Magic City from? Basically, I guess it's London, really. Like I said at the beginning of part one. I'd found a new life, and I was completely and utterly life seemed to be sparkling at that time, and really was so new. I was free of alcohol, I'd stopped smoking, and I was just riding the bike, and I was in London, and because I wasn't drinking or smoking, I was, obviously physically my health was improving, and I had a bit more money, starting to do a few more gigs, not spending all the money on drinking cigarettes and whatever. And I just had this freedom and real fond memories of that time, and really things had turned around. And I think all of the music in Magic City, not just the album, the whole album, is an indication of how much things had turned around in my world. I was finally starting to, it's just really happy memories of doing it.